Hey everyone, guess what? Double digits here. Video 10. Trying to bring it in close enough. 10 for beginning guitar for worship. And I've lost my little sign. better watch where I put that Mac. There it is. Beginning guitar for worship. And of course, this is Joe. And hey, I hope you're having some fun. Key thing in this, love God, have fun. That's what we used to always tell kids at kids' church. And so you just, there's nothing like trying to keep the innocence in all this and just remaining childlike and be good to yourself and be patient and don't be discouraged. That F chord we did and the key of C and that B flat are very difficult chords, there's no doubt. If you notice, if you come to page 21, you're going to see the key of G major. Okay, now you remember a little while ago we talked about, I think it was in video 7 or 8, about the circle of fifths. And so that circle of fifths are the sharp keys, and G major is the second harmonized progression in that because it has one sharp. And so you're going to see it more when we grab it, look at it together. It's page 21. There we go. And there it is, the key of G. Come up over here with you. There. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, and you can see that your number 1 chord is going to be G. Number 2 is A minor. Number 3 is B minor. Number 4 is C. Number 5 is D 7th. Number 6 is E minor. And then you've got your F diminished, which we're just going to keep a good old F. Okay? Let me see here, come up a little bit more. There's your actual chords. You can see your forms, and I'm trying to hold this long enough. I know I'm not being real steady, but just where you get a good look at that as far as your forms of your chords as we go through it. Just remember it's page 21 in that photo album, Joe Cash photo album, Beginning Guitar for Worship, 40-page manual unfold in my photo album on my Facebook page. Okay, so let's do those chords. What you're going to find, which is really cool from here, since we've already covered the harmonized chord progression of C, a lot of these chords are going to repeat themselves. So we're going to do that. We're going to start with G, which is the number 1 chord. And just, remember, what's important as we get to each progression, we're going to start it off, and it would make sense. If G is the beginning of a G harmonized chord progression, the G is going to be the first chord, but that G is what we're going to change up in a capo. When we get to that capo and start changing these, you're going to see some really neat things happen. So here we go. Let's get to the nut all the way down at the end. 1, 2, 3. So that's a G right there, isn't it? So just like we did with C, we're going to take our second finger, 3rd fret, that bottom E becomes a G, or the bass note. That's why it's a G chord. Your second finger is going to come to the A string, 2nd fret, which is a B in that chord. Buzzed it just like we did in the last video, didn't we? Then you can do something a little bit different. I'm actually going to drop my 3rd and 4th finger on the last 2 strings right in that 3rd fret and give it a little more of an overtone. So I added my 3rd finger on that 2nd fret, and you can see it covered in on that 3rd fret right there. So very nice. And then what I'm going to do purposely is drop this to a C. So my C is right here on the 5th string, 3rd fret, and I'm going to just drop that other finger right below it on the 4th string, 2nd fret, and come up with what's called a C2, because you're going to see that progression a lot in chords. G, C, G, C, and that C is kind of a C2, C9. It just adds more color to it, more depth. That was extra. Okay, A minor, number 2 chord. Find myself on this is, just like we did before, 1st finger goes on the 2nd string, 1st fret, Third finger goes on the third string, second fret, and we're going to drop the other one right below it. And of course it's an A minor. Why? Because it's the bass note is the A. Okay, so that's A minor. We did that once before. Now B minor. Again, no easy way to do this. It's a bar chord. Okay, but we're going to grab our B on the A string, second fret, and what I'm going to do in a bar chord is we're simply going to press all the strings down equal pressure. At first it's going to sound like this, and that's okay. It's alright. Now remember the A minor, which was the chord we did just before this? What we're actually going to do is we're moving that up a whole step. And if you remember what I talked about in whole steps are skipping a fret. So you're actually going from, like here, if we're on G, to get to A, I'm skipping a fret to get to the A. And that's called a whole step. So that A minor that you just did as the second chord in the G major progression, we're just going to move that up a whole step and bar it, and that's why it becomes a B minor. So we're going to take our bar, lay it across the whole second fret. Now here's something neat I am going to show you. Let's just get this in here for the sake of it. We're going to put our second finger, just like you did before with an A minor, but instead it's going to be on the second string, third fret, and your fourth and fifth, your third and fourth finger is going to go up above it, just like you did with the A minor before. And the B, of course, is on that second fret, A string. That's where you're grabbing your bass, and that's B minor. Now, B minor can easily be done a little simpler, and it's some certain chords are specialty chords that I'm going to call claw chords. And I didn't invent them, but I can tell you I've kind of developed a technique for myself that's why I call them cash claw chords, and that's a whole other section. But I'm going to try and envelop it as we go because I want bar chords to be easier for you. But for this B minor, think of a claw again. The claw, the claw. You're clawing the strings. We're not pushing, we're clawing, okay? So we're going to go to our, try to move it in a little bit closer for you. Good, 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 good. We're going to go to our A string, second fret, and that's where we're going to grab our B, okay? But we're not going to bar it, we're just going to push that one string. Then I'm going to skip a whole fret and lay my third and fourth finger on the D string and G string together, and this is what it's going to sound like. So I'm just pushing those three strings. Almost sounds like a suspended chord, and in a way it is, because you can hear that chord too. But it's also called a 5 chord. When you've only got, if you leave a 3 out, and not to get too complicated, but if it's a 1 3 5, it's a major chord. If it's a 1 flat 3 5, then we know it's a minor chord. That's the only difference. But we're leaving the 3 out, and we're just playing it easy, and it's just these 3 fingers, 1, 2, and 3 over here. So this one's not doing anything. These 3 are the one being pushed down. And again, neck, thumb is toward the middle of the neck. That's where you're getting your pressure from. If you can see that. Okay, so we're just, it's like you're pinching. We're pinching like that. But you're using that as a clamp to push that single string down and these through. Okay. Now what's neat about this claw chord is if I take and move it up a whole step, it still sounds pretty, doesn't it? So if I moved B up a whole step, I'm at C sharp, and you can use that as a C sharp chord or a C sharp minor because it's a 5 chord. I can move it up and create a D, C sharp to D, then I can move it up to the 7th fret, and that's when we get into E. This is something we're going to get into. I'm just giving it to you as extra. Now mind you, all I did is take the B and move the whole form along the neck, didn't I? From the 2nd fret to the 4th fret, to the 5th fret, 7th fret. I can even move it to the 9th fret and get a nice F sharp minor. I'm not going to get into that. Move it up one more and you got a G. And then on the 12th, guess what you've got? An A, because on the 12th fret, everything repeats. Now, what's important, but I do want you to see, and I'm going to sit here and talk with you a little bit about this. These are ways I'm hoping that will get you through the difficulty of bar chords. Little things like that, I would give anything to have learned those 5 chords, of what they're called. Just that's the name of them. But they make things so much simpler, and there's a lot of real beautiful songs that I've seen time after time again, especially on that E. A lot of songwriters using that, going to an E major 7th just by lifting one finger out, or just little things like that. But it really just adds a lot of nice color and content to that chord that really change it up, especially if you've got a couple people playing guitar and you're playing 5 chords while they're playing straight open chords. Really, really cool. But we're going to get more into that. That was the B minor. So in G we had G, A minor, B minor, and C. C is our number 4. And we did C before, so I'm just going to do it. Of course it's C because it's C in the bass note. Then now a D7th, and I should have said that before, your 5 chord there is a D7th. Your D7th would be your first finger almost back to where you were doing the A minor. Remember that? On the 1st fret. And then your other 2, your 2nd finger is going to go up one more string to the 3rd string, 2nd fret, and your 3rd finger is going to go to the E string at the bottom. And of course your D comes from the D string. Kind of a different sounding chord. And sometimes some people will play a D here instead, which I'll show you in the next D series. But that D7th is really kind of a transition. Sometimes you'll hear that before they actually come back to G. And that's part of the turnaround. They call those turnaround chords. But the number 5 chord is like a turnaround chord. You can hear that resolvement, can't you? You can almost hear that. It almost just sounds like it belongs to do that. Needs to do that. Now E minor, just like A minor was for C, is G's relative minor. And we played E minor before, where you've got 2 fingers that come up on the 5th and 4th string on that 2nd fret. And of course you're going to grab your E from the bass. Just a lot, boy, don't you love that E minor chord. It's beautiful. But that's that relative minor. G. You'll hear this. Sometimes it'll walk down to the relative minor. That's that relative minor. G to the relative minor of 6, which is the 6th. E minor is its relative minor. Okay, now F is just like the F before. 2 strings being pushed down. 2nd finger going to the 3rd string, 2nd fret, and of course your 3rd finger going to the 4th string, 3rd fret, which is where you're grabbing your F. And guess what? You're back at G. So let's do that whole progression together now. Okay. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3, 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 That's a harmonized chord progression of G. And what you're going to find is there's going to be certain chord progressions to you that seem easier to do. This one's going to take some work. In fact, all these, to really get through them and practice, there's no shortcuts. And I would say this, that in the very minimal that you should be willing to give when you're learning guitar is at least 1 hour a day. And I'll tell you, it's so worth it if you just take your time and go through this. And, you know, before you get started, pray and read the Word and give yourself purpose and meaning. Let some fire build up within you to give you the reason to get through this and learn it, because I'm telling you that the Lord is going to use you powerfully to write songs, and songs of healing and songs of deliverance is really what this is all about. I mean, there's a generation waiting. There's a generation waiting, and as I said before, David is the best example of that, where he pursued God in all seasons of his life, and he was a master musician. He started out his life as a musician, and you know, that's what really made him a powerful asset to Saul, is that he would play those songs and the demons would flee. And I'm serious, that's what worship does. That the enemy scatters when we worship him, and the Lord will use you in a powerful way. But you know, for now, just take it in your quiet time and open up your Bible and just begin to sing psalms and hymns and spiritual songs, as Colossians says, and just let it get into your spirit, and things are going to flow. That living water, John 7, that living water just begins to flow. It's a natural overflow of the inflow, that the Holy Spirit begins to come in and fill you up. Can you feel that even right now? I just could really feel that just as we're talking. But hey, this is Joe Cash. This is video 10, the key of G, harmonized chord progression, and we're going to come back in just a few minutes, and I'm glad we finally have spent some time in these harmonized chord progressions. I apologize last time, the last series, I spent too much time in theory, and so I apologize for that. I'm trying to make it better for you. Hey, we're going to be in the key of D major, and don't forget, that circle of fifths where C was natural, G had one sharp, D, the key of D, has two sharps, and that's why it's the third one in this progression. So, coming right back to you for video 11. This is Joe Cash. This is video 10. God bless you. I will see you very soon.